HOA towed my truck while I was hospitalized. I had the only recorded easement in the county. I didn't say anything when they tried to hand me another fine. I just handed them a copy of the easement, stamped and notarized by the county clerk, dated 1971. The HOA president paused mid-sentence when she saw the seal. Their lawyer leaned forward to read it, and I watched the color drain out of his face. I didn't need to explain. The county map was printed right there in black and white. Their precious gate, their private road, their list of parking regulations, all of it sat on land I had permanent legal access to. And now, because they towed my truck, I was going to use that access in ways they never expected. I wasn't looking for a fight when I bought the place. I'd spent 26 years working construction site planning. Infrastructure installs, grading before an old back injury finally caught up with me. After a minor stroke and 2 surgeries in the same year, my doctor told me I needed less stress, more space, and somewhere to heal. So when my cousin passed and left me a little 2-acre parcel just outside of town, I took it as a sign. It had a small mobile home already hooked up, a gravel turnaround, and just enough room to plant tomatoes and work on my old pickup in peace. I figured I'd finally get to slow down, fix things on my own time, and maybe learn how to sit still. The area was quiet, wooded on one side, open pasture on the other. There were a few newer homes, nearby cookie-cutter builds with matching mailboxes, but I didn't think much of it. I had my own access road, an old easement from before the subdivision even existed. It was narrow and unpaved, but it ran right through the HOA development to the main highway. I'd driven it dozens of times while visiting my cousin. I knew the layout. I knew it was legal. And frankly, I liked that nobody ever noticed me coming or going. For a while, life was good. I put in some raised beds, built a small covered deck, out back, and spent my mornings tuning up the truck while listening to the birds argue in the trees. I wasn't trying to ruffle feathers. I just wanted to be left alone. Then came the first note, taped to my truck's window one morning like a parking ticket. No return address. Just the HOA logo at the top and a lot of bold words about unauthorized vehicles and unregistered access. I read it twice before I laughed. My truck wasn't parked on their land. It was in my own turnaround, fully on my side of the easement. Besides, I wasn't even in the HOA. My land predates it by decades. I called the number at the bottom of the letter. A woman answered and introduced herself as Dawn from the board. I explained the situation calmly. I live here. I'm not part of the, and the truck hasn't moved from my gravel pad. She got oddly quiet, then asked how I accessed the property. I drive in on Old Creek Road. I said, that's private HOA maintained property. She snapped. Well, I sighed, not exactly. There's an easement recorded with the county that gives access to 3 legacy parcels, including mine. She didn't reply. Just said I'd be hearing from them again. I tried not to let it bother me. I figured someone on the board was new and overzealous. But over the next few weeks, the notes kept coming. First about the truck, then about the gravel not matching community standards, and even one accusing me of operating an illegal repair shop because I had a few friends. Over helping install a new transmission. It all felt petty, but I didn't want trouble. So I printed out a copy of the easement, highlighted the boundaries, and dropped it in their Dropbox. I included a short note: this property is not subject to HOA governance. Please stop trespassing. That's when things got worse. I went into the hospital for a scheduled cardiac procedure, just an overnight stay. I'd let my neighbor know, and he agreed to keep an eye on the place. But when I came home 2 days later, my truck was gone, not moved. Not towed for safety, gone. At first, I thought it had been stolen. But then I saw another one of those HOA letters nailed to a post on the edge of the driveway. This one said my vehicle had been removed due to non-compliance with HOA vehicle standards and unauthorized parking on communal property. I sat down on my steps and just stared at it. They'd waited until I was in the hospital, literally under anesthesia, and had my truck towed off my own land. That was the last note I needed. I stopped calling. I stopped explaining. Instead, I pulled out the old file folder my cousin had kept in his desk. It had everything: the original deed, the recorded easement map, even a letter from the county engineer back in the 70s approving the utility layout. I took that file and rented a car, ironically, to the county clerk's office and requested a certified survey overlay showing my parcel's legal access through the HOA development. The clerk was kind enough to pull a few old subdivision filings too. That's when I saw it clear as day. The access road had been built partially on easement land. Not just mine either. 2 other properties relied on it, which meant the HOA wasn't just wrong. They were blocking critical legal access to land that technically had superior title rights. The next few weeks were quiet. I paid a lawyer to send a letter demanding return of my vehicle. They ignored it. So I filed a formal complaint with the county's land use office, along with documentation showing the HOA's road maintenance interfered with my legal right-of-way. Then I called the tow company. The driver remembered the job. Said he was told by someone on the board that the vehicle was abandoned. Once I showed him proof of ownership, he got real nervous. Offered to return the truck for free. I told him no, I wanted it documented in writing that the tow was unauthorized. He complied. With all of that in hand, I requested time to speak at the next HOA board meeting. I wasn't a member, but they couldn't legally bar me from attending, since part of their road sat on public easement land. I showed up in jeans and a flannel. They looked surprised to see me. When it was my turn to speak, I walked up, dropped the file on the table, and calmly said, "My vehicle was towed while I was hospitalized. Here is the easement you violated. Here is the county map proving it. And here," I held up a fresh legal notice, "is a formal demand for full reimbursement, along with a warning that any further interference with access will result in a suit for obstruction of easement rights under state law." Dead silence. The lawyer leaned forward and asked to see the survey. I handed it to him without a word. He took one look and whispered something to the president. She turned red. Not angry, red, embarrassed. They didn't say a word as I packed up and left. 3 weeks later, I got a certified letter from the apology. Just a bland notice saying they'd revised their policies regarding legacy easement properties and would refrain from future action pending further legal clarification. My truck was returned the next day, undamaged, but I wasn't finished. I petitioned the county to clarify the easement boundaries with permanent markers. The inspector came out and set concrete boundary stakes. Turns out not only was I legally allowed to use the road, I actually owned a 6-foot strip of land underneath it that the HOA never formally acquired. My lawyer helped file a quiet title action to finalize it. Now, every time the HOA trims a hedge or fills a pothole, they have to file a courtesy notice with me because part of the road belongs to me. I don't attend their meetings. I don't wave to the board members, but I do drive through slowly every time I leave home in my now perfectly legal, perfectly clean truck, and I smile because the best kind of revenge isn't loud. It's permanent. Now, they don't leave notes. They leave me alone.